The seismic sensor, a device that turns boom boom into electricity, and in the next 15 minutes I will prove to you that this item is an underrated gem. To do this, I have built more than 10 different schemes for you. Each scheme is a ready-made example of using the sensor on a game server to solve a specific task, ranging from the simplest notification to your phone in case of an attack, to clever loot systems that carry loot from a raider around the base while you sleep soundly. Don't forget that you are still watching Woodcocker channel, and I still love getting a lot of likes on my videos. Let's dive into the first scheme. Naturally, we will start with the simplest, an alarm in case of a raid. Everything here is really elementary. We will only need the sensor itself, a smart alarm, and some power source. We connect the sensor directly to the smart alarm. There's no point in changing the radius in the settings yet. All that's left is to connect Rust+. It's the usual process.
Download the app on your phone, log in with your Steam account, pair the server with the game, and finally connect the alarm to it.
Now you can throw a grenade and you'll receive a notification on your phone. Such a notification will come to us after every explosion of anything from the list on the screen. But the thing is that the sensor can determine what exactly exploded nearby, and in the second scheme, we will learn to use this function. We start off exactly the same way, with the sensor and the alarm. We need to rummage through our pockets and find any of these 4 items. We connect the sensor to the input, and from the output, we connect the alarm. And now our seismometer is already ignoring a portion of explosions that are not much like a raid. If we repeat this process again, adding a second useless item to the scheme, another 4 items will disappear from the trigger list. So, the notification will only reach us if C4, a rocket, or an MLRS rocket explodes nearby. Since the sensor can determine the power of the explosion, we can also accurately display it in notifications. And yes, this won't help us wake up in the middle of the night, but we will be able to clearly track what and where exploded, as the sensor is ready to send notifications every 2 seconds. It's not my scheme and I don't really know who is its author, but anyways, it works as follows. Throw an F1 grenade and you receive one type of notification. Shoot an explosive bullet and you get a second type. Click on the C4 and you get a third type. Building it is quite simple. Connect 2 branches to each other using the branch out contact. Next, connect 2 memory cells using the output contact. Set the upper branch to 1 watt and connect both of its contacts to the reset slot of each memory cells. From the other branch, power our sensor and split its output into 3 cables. The left one will go to the input of the lower memory cell, the middle one to its set contact, and the right one to the set contact of the second memory cell. Now we just need to plug in the alarms. The inverted output of the lower memory cell is responsible for the F1 grenades, the inverted output is for the explosive rounds, and the main output of the upper memory cell is for rockets and C4. Now let's check and make sure everything works. Let's move on to more interesting applications. For example, the seismic sensor allows us to control the doors in the house. At the most basic level, we can set it up so that all doors close in the event of a raid. Connect the branch to the sensor and set it to 1 Rust watt in the settings. Plug the sensor into the set contact of the memory cell. Connect the free slot of the branch to the input contact of the memory cell. And from there, through the inverted output, connect it to each door. Now connect the doors one by one. If they stop opening, it means there isn't enough energy in your base. Close all the doors manually and everything is ready. Now, with any explosion within a 30-meter radius, the circuit will close all connected doors and lock itself. To unlock the circuit, you need to reconnect the sensor's input to an empty contact on the memory cell for a moment. The doors will open again, meaning the circuit is ready to close them upon an explosion. To set the level of explosives needed to activate the circuit, you can simply insert any consumer between the sensor and the memory cell, as in scheme number 2. You can also connect a notification to this circuit. Just connect the alarm to the empty output of the memory cell. Additionally, you can add the ability to close doors manually using Rust+. For example, if you got camped by a double-barrel child and left the doors open, you will need to add a smart switch to the circuit as well as any switch with OR in its name. Just place a second branch and connect everything to each other. From the first branch, connect the new one, setting the number of doors connected to the circuit in its settings. The left output goes back to the input of the memory cell. The right output goes to the smart switch, and from there, we put to the switch. Connect the sensor to the second input of the switch, and the output connects to the memory cell. or in this case, to the lamp. Now, let's check that everything works. The reset method for the circuit remains unchanged with these modifications. Don't worry if you don't have multi-TCs in your base. Using this scheme, the raider will not be able to open your doors in any scenario. The next application is simply golden. It works like this. An enemy approaches the base, starts banging, the doors open, and the turrets knock the shit out of the raider. Optionally, a notification will come to your phone, so you don't forget to loot this kid. It is built just like all the previous circuits, very cheaply and quickly. Again, the same set of components. The connection is the same too, but we connect the main output to the door instead of the inverted output. Agree, to have such a surprise on the roof is just perfect. However, this simplest circuit has one very interesting additional use. For those who love to place many turrets, the seismic sensor has clearly taken the top spot on the must-have research list, as it allows you to place up to 20 turrets in one base, all of which will work for you. I built this model base for the video. As you can guess, this is our external cupboard, here is the gate room, and this is the base itself. In the cupboard, in the gate room, and in the base, I set up the same circuit I just showed, with a small modification that I will mention shortly. I also limited the range of the sensors so that they do not overlap too much. And here's what we have in the end. I start shooting at the cupboard, the turret in the cupboard activates. Then I proceed to raid the external walls, waking up the turrets in the compound. When it comes to raiding the main base, the turrets inside wake up as well. And the very change I mentioned is the activation duration of the turrets. Each of the circuits activates the turrets for only 5 minutes. This way, we can place one turret in each of the external cupboards, about 8 turrets inside the territory, and another 12 in the base itself. As the raid progresses, different turrets will activate without interfering with each other. To properly calculate the range of the seismic sensors, we can use a regular pair of binoculars, as they display the distance to an object in meters. So how do we make the turret work for 5 minutes? You just need to replace the memory cell with a timer and set the desired time in the settings. It's that simple. As you can see, almost all of these circuits are built very similarly, requiring just a couple of blueprints, consuming very little electricity, and are easy to remember. Nevertheless, for beginners, I have also published all these circuits as pictures on my Patreon page. As you can see, my videos do not contain any ads, so becoming a patron is the most effective way to support me financially. Thank you! We move to the next scheme. Thanks to the sensor, we also have a tool capable of tracking mine explosions. Previously, all traps with mines did not work without an operator. If someone blew up on a mine and you didn't hear it, you would probably never know who it was. But paired with the sensor, you can, for example, automate a wonderful trap like this. A player explodes, the doors close, and a notification pops up on your phone. What more could you want? It's built, as always, incredibly simply. This is just a regular circuit with closing doors during a raid, plus a notification to your phone. And finally, we've reached the sweetest part, connecting sensors to conveyors. Here, I won't even need to explain anything, just appreciate the level of enjoyment. Here we have a schematic of the most default base. In the center is a kill bunker with a cupboard. Around are 4 loot rooms. In each of the loot rooms, there is some stuff. You know how it goes during a wipe. Here a teammate dropped their gear for researching, here's some farm waiting for smelting, and here we have some loot from a hilly lost in trash. Life as it is. Doesn't matter whether we are online, took a break for lunch, or simply got kicked from the server because the neighbor chewed through the network cable. As soon as someone starts raiding our base, everything useful from the chests will flow into the bunker. And it doesn't matter from which side the raid starts. By the time the raider reaches the nearest loot room, there will be nothing useful left in it. Here's how this scheme is implemented. For example, I will take 2 regular loot rooms and 1 bunker room. As usual, we follow the main rule of pipe laying. All conveyors for extracting our stuff must be located directly in the loot room. Otherwise, our sulfur can simply be extracted by raiding the TC. So, we place the conveyors in the loot rooms and connect all the boxes to them through a combiner. Now, we lead the pipe to the bunker and connect it directly to the barrel. We repeat the same process with the second loot room. Now we build our scheme in the main area. It looks, believe it or not, just like all the previous ones. A branch, a sensor, and a memory cell. We connect everything in the same familiar way. From the battery, we connect the branch, set it to 1, Connect the left contact to the sensor and lead the right contact to the memory cell. Now we connect the output of the sensor to the set contact of the memory cell and lead the left output of the memory cell to the conveyors. We first connect it to the first conveyor, turn it on, then connect it to the second one and turn that on as well. When all the conveyors are activated, we can reconnect the output contact of the memory cell to the neighboring slot. I also highly recommend placing some consumer between the sensor and the memory cell, so that resources don't leak into the main area after a grenade explosion or a heli volley. The scheme is ready. If you have many boxes and little space in the main area, it makes sense to choose which items will be sent to the main area. For example, select the category Resources, add rare weapons, explosives of course, and for the remaining slots, whatever comes to mind. Now, copy the filters and paste them into the conveyors in each loot room. And I can't help but demonstrate the result. We throw a grenade and nothing happens. We throw an explosive bullet, the conveyors activate, and they start transferring resources. You can easily find current ways to get a pipe into a bunker on YouTube. I'll just use the simplest one. The last scheme is an even cooler variation of the previous one, on which you can build a whole base, which I might even consider doing. We still have 4 loot rooms, but unlike the previous base, they are not connected to the main area. Instead, they are connected to each other. And as soon as we start blowing up any of the 4 loot rooms, the loot inside is instantly sent to the other 3. This is implemented as follows. The scheme itself is exactly the same, only now there are 4 of them here. Each loot room has its own sensor. The sensor is positioned as close to the center of the cube containing the loot as possible. The easiest way to achieve this is by using a shelf. The sensor is set to a triggering distance of 4 meters. This is enough for the loot to start being pumped when the honeycomb near the loot is blown up. As always, the conveyors are located exactly where the loot is, and they are routed through a splitter to all 3 loot rooms. This way, the loot will be divided into 3 parts and flow into the boxes. Since each loot room has 1 pipe from each loot room, a combinator is also installed inside that merges all 3 pipes into one. And because each loot room has its own small battery, even if the base is completely powered down, it can still transport resources back and forth for several hours, forcing the raider to raid the base from top to bottom. Now let me demonstrate how this works. First, I will show the triggering radius of the sensors. It runs roughly through the middle of the test base. If I start shooting at any part of the buffer behind which the loot room is located, the lamp lights up, which means the loot will start running to the other side. If I blow up other walls, nothing happens. Now, for demonstration purposes, let me place 100 sulfur in each box. I take a shot, check the box, and after 10 seconds, the sulfur is gone. Okay, let's repeat this with the other loot room. Absolutely the same story. Now the third loot room, again no loot. Now let's check the speed of clearing the loot rooms under more realistic conditions. I filled one of the loot rooms to the brim with various items. 1 gun in a stack, 3 rockets, 10 C4s and 1000 sulfur. I blow up 2 stone walls with rockets, drill the boxes, and as you can see, our scheme managed to save 3 boxes of individual items and more a string of sulfur in just 1 minute with only 1 conveyor and 1 adapter in each chest. And thanks to the locks on all the boxes, the return of loot to the already open loot rooms by the raider is only possible if they doesn't check the contents of the boxes, which won't happen in any raid in the game. Write in the comments which application you liked the most and don't forget to like this video. Thank you for watching and see you in the next videos.